is sponsored by Rio Fitness. It's not just about physical fitness, it's about wholeness. We win when you win. Work out with someone who puts your goals and challenges to the test. Customized workouts for strength, endurance, and weight loss. You want to get better? You want to get stronger? You want to be your best? Connect with Rio Fitness, the highly sought after certified personal trainer in Central Florida. In-person and virtual training is available. www.bookrio.com or call 407-796-2259. That's 407-796-2259.
Hey, what's up, everybody? You're back with your Many Hands podcast with your Many Hands crew. We are so excited to be back. And we are thought partners. We are thought leaders. We try to change the world just a day at a time. So we focus on social and business consciousness. 4 entrepreneurs got together to talk about a little bit more than business and keep the world going round. So I am so excited to be here. You have your girl O, and I'm going to introduce my crew to my right. You can catch them between motivational platforms, supporting clients into physical and mental wellness and closing culture gaps, Mr. Rio Winfrey.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again. Always excited to be a part of this team. Excited to share information with you guys and just have real talk.
All right. Welcome, welcome. And we have making the world a little smaller by connecting powerhouse companies with superior brands, creating opportunities and funneling in the dollars, Mr. Antoine Watts.
Wow, I feel so good to always be with y'all. Another day, and like Rio said, hey, let's talk.
At the corner of cultural diversity and leadership and making a sharp right on Investment Avenue while bringing a few young soldiers with him, we have B. McKinney.
Blessings on blessings. What's good, people? Let's talk about it.
All right.
Thanks for coming.
And you know me, Ross, the Small Biz Engine. I'm creating strategies, analyzing data, and I'm speaking on business development anytime you need. So to catch more about us and this show, upcoming events and everything that we do, hit manyhandspodcast.com. That is manyhandspodcast.com. Today, another interesting topic. We are going to talk about our biggest mistakes. And because we also develop businesses, we're going to talk about mistakes that we see that others make. So, because we've been in a few situations that we've had to come out of, help other people come out of, and it's just pretty interesting as we move forward. And we thought it was important because a lot of businesses, they have, it could be a good concept that it's hard to materialize just because things are missing. Things are missing in the process, in the planning stage, execution stage. There's a lot of things that go into it. So we thought that we would highlight some of that today. For me, I consult, and, you know, one of the things I see is that sometimes people call me too late. You know, by the time, you know, I'm good on the front end, you know, kind of like my business philosophy. I'm not taking risks that I don't understand. I'm making my money on the front end, you know, and I have that same philosophy when I'm dealing with my clients. You should know where we're going. We should have some kind of scope or perspective. While everything's not predictable, you can put some things in place. So sometimes I get calls and it's a little bit too late, and the advice comes down to it after you know, done the analysis and you look at the market, that it may be time to exit the business. And that's usually a hard pill to swallow. Sometimes it's a hard pill to sell, but it's the truth. And so, you know, for me, being steeped in the truth, especially when it comes to business, because time is money, and you don't want to continue to lose money or have a bleeding business or make, you know, unrecoverable actions. So it's important that we cover it all around. And then, you know, I really want us to talk about when it comes to the biggest mistakes, business as a whole, and then, you know, also segment Black business as well, because, you know, more than 50% of businesses fail, you know, Black businesses, over 80% of businesses fail. So there's a lot of, you know, disparity again when it comes to, you know, segmenting out, and we want to make sure that we're covering some of the whys, because I think it's important to delve into some of the whys. I'm gonna kick it off with one thing that always comes to me, that there's just too many alphas and not enough betas. So everybody's out there, they want to be Jordan, they're gonna be the best, work the hardest, and they're not building a team of betas, and nobody wants to be Pippen. So how do you guys feel about or giving, I guess, some highlights, some points, some advice when it comes to building balance and a team?
I'll start. So it's in my opinion that a lot of people, entrepreneurs and people that are starting businesses and have teams around them, is that a lot of it's pride also. They don't share their weaknesses. All they want to do is expose their strengths, but we're all human. We all have strengths and weaknesses. So maybe somebody in your team that is really strong in one area. So it doesn't hurt to share information back and forth. So I think that's another thing. One of the main things we see a lot is that not everybody's sharing the information. And those that do have a lot of it, they're scared. Some people do have, and they're even scared to speak up and say, hey, well, I can help you out with that. So it goes both ways to a degree.
Yeah, it's a lot of trust issues. I've seen it where, I think this is what you're alluding to, really, where people ask you to sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, too quickly. And I'm like, but you haven't told me anything. And I didn't ask you anything. And you know what I mean? You have to be able to communicate, articulate, at least to make me want to sign it. You know what I mean? They come out the bat with, I have something. I'm like, okay, do you have a patent? No. Do you have any kind of, no. What am I signing to? You have to be able to share your ideas. Like it's a sensitive time when you bring all that out. And I had another incident where I had somebody asked me to help them develop their team, and I did that. And then because they have trust issues, everybody I brought to the team, they kind of sabotaged it. And then, it hurt me because I'm bringing, my connections, so now it became a reputational hazard. So some of those people that I brought to the table that you could not articulate why you didn't want them involved after I gave you their resume and told you that they were, a good asset to have. They got to know without really knowing a good reason no, because you didn't have one. And so now it looks like I'm, playing games and things like that. So that trust issue, I think, is big.
Well, and even really, so a lot of times, this is an old saying, we talk about it a lot, learn how to be a follower before you can be a leader. And fortunately for me, coming up in my professional life, I was brought under someone who she was very alpha, but she had a very clear vision of what she wanted her company to be. And then what happened was it allowed me to see her vision, live within it, give feedback, but also just see, again, every step of her way. She fought for the things she believed in. Some of the things she didn't, or she wasn't sure about, she would fall back and kind of lend to other people and accept their feedback. So it showed me a lot of that. She showed me humility in her leadership. And that was something that I got to see. So therefore, when I became a leader, I was able to do the same thing. I don't have to always be right. At the end of the day, it's my vision. It's what I deem to be my purpose, but I don't know everything. I know enough to know that I don't know everything. So a lot of the times, especially now, everybody says, well, I'm going to start this company. Okay, what other companies have you worked for? Well, I haven't, but I'm going to start this company, and I'm going to get my 5 other friends that have businesses too, that they haven't really worked for anybody, but we're going to all start together, and we're going to build this thing. But what happens with that is who's going to lead it? Who's going to do what? Like, just like what you spoke about, right? Who's going to take on the roles and who's going to be comfortable in that Pippen role or even that BJ Armstrong role? Because not everybody, even Pippen, had a stronger role than what people really believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's where I was going to is you have to know who you're building your team with and know if they have the capability of being able to step back and maybe take a second place role versus being out in front all the time. Because you know what? Speaking on The Last Dance, right? Jordan was that guy, right? But then there were times where he needed Pippen to carry him, or the team, the Bulls as a team, did not win until Pippen stepped into his own space. And embrace that space, right? Not only did he step into it, but he embraced it. And if you can't have people that can step into a role and embrace that role, it becomes hard to build a business or have a partnership that really becomes fruitful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jordan also
everything
said
you said
during the
about
Last Dance. I'm sorry. So Jordan also said during the Last Dance, "Hey, I couldn't have accomplished all of this without it."
Hmm.
So it goes to show you, he
Right.
recognized that. The public didn't necessarily, put out that same vibe, but the man himself even stated that.
Because we just have a culture where you can't share spotlight or stage or that whole when it's unhealthy competition, we pit people against each other, and people create stories, sensationalized stories and events, and all of that for their benefit to sell papers and all that.
And to that point, it's also critical that you can have those behind the closed doors conversations with your team, knowing what is being maybe said out in the media or the public, or what conversations are being had out in the public. You can be behind closed doors and everybody knows that we're still here for this common purpose, and keep everybody humble, keep everybody's head in the game, because all it takes, and we see it from music groups to sports teams, all it takes is one person to get a little bit of a big head or think that they need a little bit more than everybody else, and then you break up the whole ship.
Right.
Yeah.
And you spoke about trust. It was funny, I used to have my little code things, because it took me a while to even trust people, right? Because I, even in my supporting roles, I still felt like I needed to control everything to solidify my position in that team. And I used to tell people, well, it takes me longer to explain things to you than just do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then next thing you know, you're up till 3:00 every night
Doing everything.
Working on things that you could have delegated to somebody else, or even taken on when they were trying to take it from you. So it's just that trust thing, and that just comes with time. I have seen some people be very good with delegation and following up with people and lending them support, letting them know that it's okay. You don't have to be perfect in every single situation, but you do have to be able to trust on many levels. It's just not like the scenario you gave, right? That's a whole nother level, right? But there are smaller caveats to it.
Mm. Yeah, we'll definitely expand on that, because now you're getting into the psychology piece of who people are, who you have to become when you're a business owner, right? Like you have to have that persona, even if that's not who you necessarily are at home. You have to put on that business persona to be well-rounded in a business fashion, and see and you're kind of uncovering some of the hidden dangers once you're able to see through a different lens, see at different angles of what's going on. So it lends to one of the next mistakes I see people make is like a failure to adapt. So right now we have where we're steeped with this pandemic. You have, racial tensions and at all-time high, the political adversaries that are, and the sparring going back and forth when we're not putting people forward. All that's affected business greatly. And I think that a lot of people have put together businesses that are okay, but not businesses that can grow, businesses that can scale. So if anything hits, or they're not multidimensional. So, this is my one stream of income into the business, is the one product I'm selling, and I'm going to sell it, and that's it. Well, there may not be a need for it, or we may all be quarantined, and now Zoom is the best thing going, and those stock prices, right? So you have to be able to adapt. With us, let's say the restaurant, for example, with COVID, so people couldn't come into the restaurant. Right now we're at 50% max capacity, but, general public still isn't as comfortable eating out, right? So we had to increase our delivery business. Well, all that delivery business comes with higher commission. So now it affects our gross margin. So we're going to talk about knowing your numbers and your dollars later. That's a big failure point in and of itself. But talking about being able to adapt. How have you guys had to adapt during this time?
So me, with the whole fitness business in general, I had to go virtual. Although there are gyms that are open, I wouldn't want to put my clients in jeopardy, and obviously not myself. If I'm sick, I can't help anybody else be healthy. So my biggest thing was adapting to the virtual environment, and then just having to explain that it can still be can be beneficial. So although I'm not there in person to make sure, I still make sure I'm very tedious when I'm doing these trainings virtually. So it's not just for me to adapt, it's also for the client because it's new to them as well. But just having to explain the setup, how it's going to work, and it's going to a bit greater detail than normally, when I'm in person. So it was a big adjustment. It's a little awkward at first, but we're still getting results from the virtual side.
Yeah, we just worked out yesterday. It was great. It was trying to figure it all out. Like, where do I put my camera? But it was good. It was good.
You guys did great. You're not mad at me today, right?
No.
Workout or no more workout. You know what I'm saying? I got a chip on my shoulder. That's how I rock.
What I will say is in reference to our business, the marketing piece of it, a lot of our marketing is face-to-face marketing. So it did not allow us to get out and touch the people the way we normally would to get our business to thrive, because personal relationships are everything in marketing. They really are. Not the only thing, but they are definitely very important. But a large piece of that as well was our clients on the medical side. They couldn't see patients in their offices the way they would. So we helped create a telemedicine network in full implementation, trying to get to make sure to make patients feel comfortable, to make staff members feel comfortable, to make doctors feel, okay, we're not going to lose our entire business model. We just have to shift it a little bit. And, patients appreciated that more as well. So on our marketing piece, it took us a little while longer to adapt, but there was a ton of Zoom calls, like you mentioned. There were a lot of text messages. There were a lot of more FaceTime calls. And it actually, some people that we couldn't get in front of all the time, it actually was more beneficial for our business and our clients as well.
Yeah, that's good. On the real estate side of things, right? Real estate tends to be a very, Twan, to your point, real estate tends to be a very personal touch type of industry. And we had to pivot and again, sort of be agile and start doing virtual walkthroughs. With COVID, we were either having to put a mask on and gloves. Some showings I was doing where people had to wear a mask. There were some showings where they would only allow one person in the house at one time, and so if you can't get more than one person in the house, then what do you do? So I've had to go in and do a video walkthrough on Skype or FaceTime with somebody to say, here's the bed, here's this room or here's that room. They're not getting exactly the same feel from being able to see, feel, touch, but at least they can see it and, get an idea that way. So it's just, you have to be able to make adjustments, be agile, be able to even predict or have some foresight to say, hey, in this instance where we have a pandemic, people are not going to be able to be out as much. So what can I do with my business to make sure that I can still capture that customer or capture that business, but do it in a different way than what I normally would operate?
And I just want to touch on one last thing. Another thing was us being somewhat impersonal in our approaches, because we could not be face to face with a lot of prospective clients and clients. Every conversation doesn't have to be straight to the business either. When you ask about people's families and you generally care about what's going on with, COVID, this is something different, right? COVID is a whole nother a beast that we haven't ever had to deal with. So it's really just, the first couple minutes, just asking people how they're doing, how they're adjusting, having personal conversations, and then they're able to help you in some ways and you as them, not always in a business manner. So it was more about trying to create personal touch in other avenues as well, other than just straight to business.
Right. I think it has to be it's a real holistic approach. One thing people don't do, kind of like, in the personal lives where, if people don't save, it's inevitable that the bubble will burst, right? Same thing with business. You have to have a provision for bad debt, right? You have to have that on your balance sheet. It has to be one of the core things. And those type of practices, good business practices, help you to be able to adapt and become agile when you need to. The one thing is, so now, we had COVID, so we had to like double down on some marketing. Are we able to do that if you don't have the extra money? Because now your income is dropped, right? Your revenue is dropped. So how can you put more into marketing that when it's not there, right? And what kind of marketing do you do? Because if people aren't driving and they're not out there, what's the point of having a billboard, right? So now you have to be, what's getting in your home? How do we afford that? How many eyes are going to be on it? Is your, client base on social media, all those kind of things. One thing that Twan, you touched on is, not everything, or I guess knowing your type of customer, because some customers are relational, relationship based, and some customers are transactional. So I always found it very, like a key, like when you have your client list or your prospect list, and as you get to know them and you find out what kind of relationship or what kind of person they are, you're able to have those kind of conversations to help you get the sale and keep business going. So that's another thing that I think is a mistake if you're not reading your customer. I'm going to turn a little bit, switch gears, and I see this all the time where people are in partnerships, which is fine. It's a whole topic in and of itself. Because I could tell you my partner stories is bananas, but where their family members are the partners. And it sounds really good when you're young at the lemonade stand, or, even, you're in college and, all of a sudden you think that you're deep, snap it up. You think that you're deep and right, snap it up. And you come with these ideas and this is who it is. But, family doesn't always work well like that, and then from the consumer side, it's hard to get embattled in that. And I've seen a lot go down. I've seen people, Central Florida people, this is my cousin, this, that, and all of a sudden, like, hey, what happened to so-and-so? Oh, well, I had to put him out. What do you mean? I don't want to know all that. It can be very intense. Have you guys ever done business with family?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't. So from my perspective, I can't say that I have. What I can say is that, when I first started doing personal training, my first few clients were friends and family. So with me, speaking on that type of platform, it was a challenge for me to take the emotion out of it. Because, we kind of slide off to like sidebar conversations and just talk about, life and all that. When literally I felt, after thinking about it, I'm like, man, I'm kind of cheating them out of it because I need to stay focused and just be their trainer. I'm not their son, their brother, their cousin, their friend. I'm their actual trainer. So that was an adjustment I had to make, and have, going forward, I had to make sure that's what it was, just taking the emotion out of it. So that's the closest I've come to as far as working with family.
Yeah, but I think you're kind of lucky that family wants to work with you because, a lot of times family friends are the last to support you. Sometimes the people you've met on social media that you've never met in person are your biggest support. You're like, man, I feel like Snoopy in Woodstock. You know what I mean? He's always there for me. I have no idea who he is. But, Woodstock, come through. Right. I run away, Woodstock runs away. It's like, where's Woodstock? But your family, they won't click, like, share, or, B will laugh because I'll share something like the obnoxious comments I get. Like one time I designed a video and, that's not, I do it for our businesses, but, it's nothing that I pretty much sell out, but they're really good videos that I capture and, they're competitive on the market with what's paying, right? And it saves us money. I do it in-house. And I sent it out to a friend. I said, oh, this is, for our grand opening of whatever. And they were like, oh, it looks great, blah, blah, blah. It looks professional. Blah, blah. Then they said, I said, I did it, right? And they changed their tone of appreciation for the work. They're like, oh, okay, I see. Like, okay. And I said, well, do you see something? Did I miss something? Did I, let me know? Because this will be the time before I press release, right?
Right.
Like, oh, I don't see. Okay. And I'm like, okay. And then again, so I tried out with somebody else, don't tell them this is great. Okay, good. I did it. Like, well, good for you.
Yeah.
See, and that's crazy to me because I see those as the opportunities to boost people, right? Like when you you send something to me like that, and then I'm like, man, this looks great. And then you say, yeah, I did that. I'm like, oh, wow. Hey, moving forward, should be something that you do all the time for your businesses, right? Like, this is a great product. Like, I just see that as the time that you show people appreciation, you boost them up.
Yeah, but at the same time, see, we have a very honest relationship, right? So I feel like if I bring something to the table and I send you guys stuff like, hey, what do you think? You give me feedback, you know what I mean? And so that kind of feedback will make it better, clean up the edges, what have you. But people can't, some people are not honest and humble enough to take feedback. Some people aren't honest enough to provide it. Some people, you know, like, oh, you know, we're in very, very different industries. So we don't have, a client competitiveness or anything like that. And some people just don't want to see you do well. You know, I just
unfortunate.
Family and friends. I've had people in the travel business, it's full service travel business we have, and they would ask for quotes, right? And I don't need practice in providing quotes. I really don't, right? So it takes time, especially if you're looking for something custom, right? So now I'm reaching out to several vendors, making it this, very personalized. You do all that, you put it together, you package it up, you put it on a bow, and they take that information and they book it elsewhere.
Shop it elsewhere, yeah.
Not just shop it, they just book it elsewhere. But I have the same, if there's a lowest price on the market, I have access to that, right? And I don't mark up. So I know I can guarantee that you didn't get a better price. So that wasn't
right.
I
so
can guarantee you didn't
why
get a
go
better
somewhere else?
presentation. So why book somewhere else? So I've had to tell people, let's be honest. I don't need practice in running quotes. So go to whomever. I've had people actually be out of the country and end up in an issue and then call like, hey, I need help. Hey, you're gonna have to call me to book that. You know what I mean? Like I can't help you. I mean, I wish you well. I hope you get back in.
Oh, so funny you say that. So obviously with Keep Calm, we have the attorney referral service. We also have a full-scale medical marketing side firm with orthopedic surgeons, neurosurgeons, chiros, everything based off of personal injury, right? That will medically treat clients. Recently, I get a call, personal friend of mine, known him 20 years. Antoine, I need a favor. What's going on? Hey, so, we got in this accident 6 months ago, and we hired this law firm, which I won't say, very reputable firm, large scale firm, we'll say that. And I'm not getting any feedback from my attorney. I'm only talking to the case managers. I'm only this, I'm only that. I said, and I know this is what you do. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. Did you know this is what I did 6 months ago?
Hello.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I did. But that law firm, I said, did you know that I have access to 1,000 attorneys, 600 law firms throughout the state of Florida? Well, yeah, I knew you. Yeah. But I said, so what I need you to do, I said, this is, again, I feel for your situation, but what I need you to do is I need you to call that case manager and tell them you demand to speak to your attorney and handle that situation with your attorney. I can't do anything for you.
Mm-hmm.
And, they were a little upset. I said, but this is the thing. You're 6 months into your case. Right. What do you want me to help you with?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it wouldn't be fair to your law firm.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be fair. We still work with these firms. We have relationships with them. We can't just go in and snatch clients and move them around. And nor is it fair to the client. Mm-hmm. But again, you knew this 6 months ago when you called them what I did.
Right.
You just chose not to call me, but now you're not getting the results that you want. So now you want to reach out.
Right.
That's not how I operate.
Yeah, and you have that top level relationship. So if somebody's not pleased, you can call the CEO, commander in chief, top attorney, top dog, and say, hey, this is what's going on, and make sure that they get results, but you can't walk them in. I have a friend, our friend VTech, back in college, he was like, we had a conversation like, hey, how do you work with friends? And the response was like, you don't. And that was it. But what you do is you refer them to somebody else in the business that will take care of them. And honestly, it served me well because every time I haven't listened to that advice, I'm like, it's some.
Yeah. I wanted to ask this question. So why is that though? Why is it so hard for family and friends to support one another in their businesses?
This is my personal belief.
Several reasons.
I just believe especially my family, I still think they see little Antoine.
Yes.
right?
Talk
The
about
guy
it.
that they grew up with, the guy that they watched grow up with, right? Yeah. But the funny thing is, and I'm not saying this about any particular family members, but the funny thing is they see you that way. But when someone needs something
Then they
of
see.
financial resource or any kind of resource, they don't have a problem calling you then. They don't see little Antoine then.
Mhm.
It's only when, well, can he really help me? Does he really know these people? He doesn't talk about it a lot. Like, I don't, but as soon as they, hey, yeah, Antoine's doing this and he's doing well. Oh, man, let me give him a call. Because, I could use some help.
Yeah.
Well, I could too, right? But again, I just think it really goes back into how they perceive you. Not your skill sets, just more so, oh, that was just my little cousin, or that was my nephew, or, oh, that's just Twan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think culture, it depends on the family. Like some families are, they kind of instill, you pay your way, you do, you know what I mean? All those principles that kind of get you through life.
Right.
And then some families, they have a culture of, oh, if my brother wins the lottery, I won the lottery. Or if, you know what I mean? Like everything is a pool, or everything is ours, everything. And I'm saying there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that it's like that family culture. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're having a party, you bring the potato salad, you bring the, you bring this, you bring that, and then everybody puts it on the table, and then we commune, So it all depends. So they just say, well, you have a business, that's my business. I could do whatever I want with it. I don't have to pay because guess what? I own the business that you own because you're family. You know what I mean? And they just expect that there's no cost associated with the service or the product that you provide. And because you're family, that they feel entitled to it.
Right. Absolutely.
So it's bizarre, because you're competing with that. And it's culture. There's a time and place for that level of awareness and what goes on with it.
I agree.
Yeah, I also think that family is so both of those points are incredibly valid. I've been put in that box of little Brian, little B, whatever. But what I realize is some families, not all families, some families are more skeptical, and you have to show them proof. And so, it might take 3 years of being in a travel business, owning a travel business before somebody calls you and says, "Hey, you guys still doing that business?" Mm-hmm. Yeah, we still own this business and we're thriving because we built it without anybody from the family, and we found other customers.
Right. While you see them on the cruise and they have nerve to tag you, you're like,
mm-hmm. Right.
Right. I'm like, nothing hurts your, but it comes to the point where you just you get that thick alligator skin, and you're like, it's well. And so I never really ask. People are like, oh, I would come to you, and I always tell them like, hey, you go wherever you're comfortable going. Yeah. Now, if it's somebody else, somebody else in that relationship, you turn it up. Like, let me tell you why I'm the business for you, but when it comes to family, friends, it's a different conversation,
And we've sort of lived with this motto that it's more about the relationship than it is about the business, right? Because I don't want to burn a relationship with my family member just to get a sale, to get some business, because ultimately I'll find that business somewhere else. But you can't always repair relationships you have with family. So it really comes down to what's most important. And for me, we own several businesses that are driven by relationships. And so relationship is more important to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I want to say also, just my own take. I feel like, and you guys have hit this on the head earlier. So when it comes to family and we'll say friends, I'm generalizing more so. I love my family. They've been very supportive. But they have a hard time separating who you are from like what you do. And they're more so focused on, who you are, how they've known you. Is what I'm getting. I feel the exact same way. But I feel like it's tough for them to kind of find that balance. Okay, well, if I had this need, such and such, yeah, my cousin or my brother, my son, they do this. Let me go right to them. They just still see you in that same spot. So I agree. That's definitely been a big challenge.
Yeah. I'm to blame too sometimes because like I told you, I've had like some bad partnerships or, bad experiences with, just certain people. And so I tend to be gun shy in the sharing, so it's not always, oh, they know what I do and they didn't come. Sometimes I have not communicated to everybody. So I will communicate because, again, Woodstock that I don't know, he's there, he's coming through and he's going to support. But, I don't, that disappointment of, not being taken seriously, or, you put your heart and soul into it and you're getting feedback that's not helpful, or, the disrespect of, oh yeah, you're doing, big things. I've been in the same room getting honored and people are like, wow, I had no idea. Now you know. Now you know, because I knew if I brought you along that journey through the struggle, through the late nights or everything I had to do on the build, and then I would get the constant, why are you doing that?
Yes.
Or that doesn't even make sense. Or I think that's a waste of time. Or you got a podcast now? And what does that do for you? And who's going to listen to you? And these are like real comments. So, you can put it on the calendar as busy, but you don't have to, it's a private meeting. You don't have to know why that space is blocked off on my calendar, because,
Absolutely.
you have to surround yourself in an environment, not that's closed off to the point where you're in a fictional environment and you're not facing reality when you need that, but you need that supportive, foundation environment in order to keep going. So where, and people, I'm sorry, but I don't want to belabor it, but people also earn the right to hear your story. And if you haven't earned the right to be that close to me, to hear my story, to be one of my supporters, then I don't give that to you.
Right.
Yeah. So,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, so coming back to, family and a mistake that I've made is making sure that if you're going to work with somebody, with family or with even friends, that there's an understanding that we are on this, we're partners, we're equal terms, equal partners. So if you had somebody, if your relationship is a superior inferior type of situation in the family space, and now you want to enter a partnership, you have to make sure that, look, you may see me as this, you may paint me and put me in this little box as a family member, but on this side, as a business owner, business partner, or whatever, you have to make sure you understand who I am and where I am, and that I may have evolved, even though you want to place me back here. I am this, and if you cannot understand that and we can't work like that, then this is not the smartest decision. And sometimes the smart decision is to walk away and not get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And this is why we're thought partners as well. So, right before you said the part about it's not always them, right? That's my thing, is that even when my family and friends, I felt they weren't supporting, because we had the Sprint dealership before where it was corporate government business. And my friends that had small businesses, I would go to them and say, hey, look, this is what we do. We have great solutions and packages for small businesses. Well, I'm just going to go to Sprint directly. And I'm like, but they can't, like, the same thing you can get there is the same thing you can get from me. And guess what? I pay for all my accessories. So the price points that I'm willing to give you, there's no better deals than you're going to get from me directly. I'm not going to give it to you free, even though you asked me for it free. But I'm going to work it out. But a lot of the times I felt like I just didn't do a good enough job articulating what I did, at what levels I did it. But again, like you said, right, sometimes people don't earn that right to hear everything.
Yeah,
because
it's the truth. In the travel business, sometimes our prices were even better than what was published on, or many times it still is, because the organization that we bought into, the ownership that they have in the market is so much greater. So we go in, buy in bulk, let's say cabins with a particular cruise line, buy in bulk, which gives us a better rate that we can pass directly down to the customer. And that it looks differently. Maybe we can give, any kind of incentive or blah, 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 decorate the camp, and all sorts of things you could do. but they would have to listen to know that, you know?
Right.
And to that point, right? Some people lose sight of the fact that, like Twan, you can go to Sprint directly. That's fine. But if you come through me, yeah, the price point is going to be great, but you also get me.
The personal touch.
When you have an issue, when you have something that's going on, I'm here from the start, and you got me as your advocate, versus going somewhere else and then having a mistake happens, and now you're coming to me 6 months later going, hey, look, I need that favor. And I'm like, look, you had me early on, and you elected to go a different direction, so I got to go a different direction. But it is what it is.
Steve Harvey said something that was very funny. I'm sorry, very funny. He said, relatives would call me and say, it's hard over here. I'm 3 months behind. He said, why you didn't call me when you were a day behind? Why you call me when you 3 months behind? Call me when you know it's going to be a problem, right? But again, that's the thing, like with the businesses, I just always felt, even now, I always, it's me. Like you said, B, right? A lot of the businesses you guys had are they're driven by relationship. They're relationship based. Every business that I have had has been that. And I always, hey, you have me. You see me. I pick up my cell phone all the time, even when I probably shouldn't. I will address your issues because, again, at the end of the day, I know that I am the reason that you are here. So that is an added facet to what we do. But, again, people are people, and they're going to do what they want to do.
Right. And it seems like it should be common sense, right? Why would you not want to support your friend or family member when the trust should already be there? Because trust is another thing.
Honestly, this is like a whole psychology conversation, because why would you want to support? Why wouldn't I want to even communicate that to you? Why, you know what I mean? Which means that there's other things entangled in the relationship or past hurts that really are getting in the way of you sharing and them accepting. That's the honest truth, right? But because we love everybody, I don't share all those details. This is not a conversation.
But I do have a question for y'all, though. At any point, have you, and I asked this probably already knowing the answer to this, because I know I have you addressed it directly with those individuals?
By and large, no. Only the one who, after the fifth quote, I was like, please stop.
Right.
It's like I'm going to need you to pause on that, because frankly, I'm busy, or they came with a, hey, I don't know, it was some kind of crazy business thing or whatever. And I said, listen, I'm going to give you a once over, and then I'm going to give you some resources for you to do the work. Right. Yeah. Because I know it's just going to end up being frustrating. And the same thing goes if the person weren't related, right? There's not all businesses for you.
Right.
Sometimes you have to fire the client because it'll take you out your mind.
Right.
Yeah.
But I've shared with once, but other than that, never, because I don't I guess I'm not confident that it'll come to resolution.
Well, y'all know I'm petty, so I address that. B, how about you, B?
Yeah. I would say there have been a couple of times. I try and keep that number down, though, because, again, you know me. Sometimes when I get to that point, it's hard to come back. So I try not to. I try and have those conversations in a way that is, in a way that it's clear and can be understood without me having to go too deep into it. Because once I get to that point, then it's a problem.
Right. So, and this is another thing too. When people say, like, when I tell people I'm petty, right, I think they take this negative connotation to it. And what I mean by that is I don't forget anything, right? That's what I really by mean. And I choose to address certain things when I see you, right? No matter what it is. But I have great tact. I know how to not be aggressive. I know how to not make people feel uncomfortable when we're talking about it. But I do want you to understand that I know, and I don't appreciate.
We're going to have to use a different word than
right.
because
right. But
I'll take it
but
wrong.
again,
Petty
though,
doesn't mean anything good.
yeah, right, like because and I'll give you a direct example, and my sisters and I have discussed this before. Situation came up where I felt like I wasn't getting that sibling support. Like it was just odd to me. Like I felt like they were supporting each other's businesses, but not mine, and I understand it. So I had a conversation with them, and we sat down, and they said, "Tony, to be honest with you, if we see it, like we don't always see everything that you post. Fair enough, right? But I said, this is what we're going to do. Once a week, I think we should sit down and talk about our businesses so you can understand exactly. Because one of the things also is we kind of know what you do, but we really don't understand all of it. And again, my fault, not theirs. So
I don't know.
Did that.
I don't know. I'm not coming in between your family.
Right.
But
Well,
also, if I have shared, I'm not saying I never share, right? So, but if I have shared, you have to be looking for it too. Because I'm highly interested in, like there's certain people that I touch base with every week. How you doing? Or whatever. It doesn't have to be a lengthy conversation. It could be a quick text. How you doing? Everything new? Everything good? Like let me know. I'm also seeking so that I can support, and whatever that support means. The support can be business, personal, whatever. I'm seeking so I can support. And so why aren't you seeking? I had, I didn't know if we were really necessarily going to talk about partnerships, but I had one partner, and every time I've had a partnership, it always felt like, excluding the current, but it's always felt like I was giving more than I was getting. And I'm not a tit for tat person in any relationship. Sometimes it's 80-20, sometimes it's 90-10, sometimes 50-50, whatever it is. Cause sometimes it is what it is, and it changes. Right. So, it was always on some 90-10-ish. Right. Mm-hmm. And then like the one time I needed something, I got nothing. Right. And so then the person was like, oh, you acting kind of different. I was like, yeah, I'm salty. Yeah. You know why? Because you never come through, or you never say, you know what I mean? You come with these grandiose ideas, and because we're, one of my talents is really getting in the weeds of things and figuring out what's going on all the way down to the most, minuscule level, you're getting the benefit of that. And because it's under the guise of said partnership, it's not a paid service, which everybody else I would tell to go scratch. But when I need you to step up and do like one thing for me and come through, I get enough. I was like, I can't. That, and I had another partnership, and the embarrassment was crazy. I was like, nah, you can't talk to people I'm doing business with.
Yeah.
No, no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, I was just gonna say, so with that situation though, it actually became a fruitful opportunity, because we came up with something to say, you know what? Once a week, we're just going to share each other's businesses. Mm-hmm. Right. Like, and it wasn't when I see it, I'm going to do it. It was like that same night we had we called it a business sharing party. Mm-hmm. Right. Like we literally sat there, shared each other's businesses, and, it was so funny. My sister that has a catering business, bless my soul, soul food catering, by the way. Bless my soul again. That was a non-paid advertisement. But she, out of that, she got a couple of like lunch events, right? Because I deal with attorneys and doctors, right? And I would use her services for some of those lunches and whatnot. But I also wanted to make the connection so she could further those relationships. And that was just one of the things I said, look, when we're intentional about stuff, business happens. That's it. Right?
Yes.
But
that's
you have
exactly
to be
what I was going to use.
You really do have to do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing. I think you literally took the words out of my mouth. You have to be intentional, and when dealing with, let's say, family or friends, it's incumbent on them sometimes to be intentional and say, hey, I have a friend who does this. But there's a million other people who do the same thing, but my friend does this. So I think sometimes human nature is just to go where it's quick and easy. And some people don't always want to deal with friends and family. But you have to be intentional if you want to support. We see a lot of this right now with people supporting Black-owned businesses. People are being intentional about supporting Black-owned businesses. And we're seeing it. You can feel it. And so it really really boils down to being intentional.
Yeah.
All right. And I want to touch on this too. And you guys know me, I'm Mr. Positivity labeled, for the most part. But when we're talking about supporting businesses, whether it's Black businesses and supporting, friends and family, the whole thing is to support in full. And what I mean by that is, you guys have heard it. You hear people, oh, can I get the hookup? Hey, man, I'm your boy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm your homegirl. What can you do for me?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of like, is that truly support? So support in full and be intentional, as you were saying earlier.
But you know what? They don't even, the people who ask for that, it's not like they're sharing your stuff all the time where you could offset it to your marketing line item or anything like that.
Exactly.
They don't do anything. You know what I mean? Like you should be, one of those sign turners on the corner. Okay. It's like, hey, exactly. Do that at least, but you get nothing. I mean, for me, I have to acknowledge, if I'm going to be honest, I'm also I'm a very sensitive person. So once I'm hurt, it's hard to climb out of that,
Right.
So I don't let myself get in the positions of that kind of immense hurt. Because once I'm hurt, it's very, I'm sensitive like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I clown around and joke around, and I'm pretty tough, especially when it comes to meetings, negotiation and business and stuff like that. So most people don't see that. But at the same time, you have to acknowledge that people are human, So, it's not like, I have a friend they're like, man, you've been through so many things. I thought they would call me drama. They're like, no, you're more like just like the eye of the storm. You're sitting there and things are happening around you. You know what I mean? And people bring it to you. And it when things that they rock me to the core, I do anything I can not to get back there.
Gotcha.
It's just, honestly, it's too much for me. And I know it's a hindrance to who I have to be strong enough for my family, my kids, and my business and everything. So I don't let myself get there. So we were really talking about, we kind of drifted from family and friends and we touched on, communication. And I think where communication also hits is our pricing and our value, right? So, another big mistake that's made, and I've made it too, is undervaluing the service, not pricing yourself correctly, and then people are thinking that, it's not really worth it, or you get what you pay for, and they start to abuse the business relationship. And then sometimes, if the problem is never really the high price. If you are in the upper echelon of your pricing, it's your failure to communicate the value of that price. And I think that people have to, realize the difference, because the price is the price. You should have some type of, benchmarking and formula, whether it's, through the labor, through, you're not paying that it only took me 5 minutes, but you're paying for the 30 years of experience that it took for me to get to this point, that I can do it very quickly for you. And people need to acknowledge that. So I think miscommunication of value is part of, I would say the next biggest mistake that, we really have to touch on.
Yeah, value is so key. Value, we spoke on it earlier. So it starts with you. People, obviously, they buy from you. So like you were saying just a few minutes ago there, or a few seconds ago, it's your value. It shouldn't be about the price point. As long as they know what they're getting. People have to know what they're getting, what comes along with your product or your service. So as long as that's communicated the right way, and then we should all be good in a sense. So yeah, it is on us as business owners to also explain what people are getting, for their service.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think too, it's knowing your value.
Right.
And if you know your value and your own and what you can provide, then the next step is being able to articulate that. But sometimes they say if your price is too low, or someone's is very quick to accept your price, then you might be too low.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing your value, knowing the market, and your expertise, and being able to articulate that, all really play into that piece.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And in my main business now with the Keep Calm, we got a call from general public client the other day, possible client, was involved in a situation with an accident, and they said, well, what do you charge for your services? And I explained to them, I said, there is zero charge to you, the end user, the client, the person that was in the incident. And they're like, but you're not an attorney. I was like, no. They're like, but you're not a doctor. I said, and after the call, in my mind, I was like, is it really your concern where I get paid, how I get paid, if it's a free service to you? Like, what does it matter? Mm-hmm. But again, they asked a lot of questions. Now, after it was over, they felt comfortable enough to say, okay, look, we're going to go with you, and we want to, because we just feel comfortable that if we have a problem, we can call you directly, But it was because there was no charge to them. It was like, well, how good can this guy really be?
Right.
And then I did explain to them, our money, where it comes from on the other clients. But it kind of made me laugh because it was like, well, you don't charge anything, so how good are you really?
Right. Trash.
Yeah, right. I was like, wow, okay. Well, let me tell you why it's zero value and why we have great value to you. And then we were able to close that down,
Yeah. There's so much competition, on my business from the consulting side. Like a lot of people are, they have that imposter syndrome. And then everybody, has become like a business coach. There's like 1,001 business coaches.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, what are you coaching on? Or have you ever been in business to coach to it? Or are you certified? Did you even go through a program? People are just like, I'm a good shoulder to cry on. Then they flip it and all of a sudden they're a business coach. And then I'm in that arena because I've always done, business consultation. They stick me in that arena but I'm like, that's not my competition.
Right.
Because I get into the weeds, I get into the analytics, I get into the benchmark of your competition, who's in there, what we're going to do, streamline your process, what technology do you need, all of that, package it up. Now you have your business in a box. Now let's rock. That's step one,
Yeah.
And so now being able to differentiate what you do versus other people who tag on the same moniker, it really, your communication, verbal and nonverbal have to be top notch, direct, and people have to understand your value.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, to a degree, people do, I guess I'm using the whole shoe analogy. They do place instant value on things that can be expensive. I'm thinking about it as a sneaker perspective, being that, a bit of a sneakerhead. So Stephon Marbury had his Starbury or Marbury shoes, right? And he made them cheap. Shaq did the same thing, made them cheap after, he left Reebok. But then they didn't do as well with sales because then you have the Air Jordans or any other sneaker that was out there that were selling very high, and those will always sell out. They're like, oh, those are expensive, so those must be, that's what it is. You go to school, you get the Bobo treatment and all of that. So to an extent, people are going to, you'll see a lot of success also price high, but once again, it does go to what are you getting for that product, for that service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Funding, I think it's a big mistake. Lack of funding, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, like when you start your business and you not everybody does the calculation of how much money you need. And some businesses run through money very, very quickly. It's just the nature of that business. And I feel like people don't put enough, sometimes there's not enough bootstrapping in the world that's going to get you there. But, I really wanted to put that out there as we're cataloging the mistakes and things like that. That funding is a big deal, making sure you have access to it, access to capital, making sure that you have banking relationships, whether if you bank wherever you have your checking account, make sure you have more than one, make sure that you have more than one banking relationship, because that banker is everything. And right now, again, during COVID, we have, businesses like travel. Okay. So now that's kind of, you imagine where that is, where the U.S. passport doesn't have any value right now. And then you have, the restaurant where we've had to change, what we do and how we're selling, that funding piece of it. So how did you guys start out in terms of funding your businesses?
Real.
No,
go ahead, Real. I thought you'd go ahead.
No, I was good. So with me, just being very candid, I made sure I knew I was studying, obviously, for my certification. Just put that out there. I mean, you have a lot of trainers out there. Not everybody is certified. I wanted to make sure I invested in myself. So I did have money just set aside before I even started that. I knew what it was going to cost for this specific certification. I knew what to expect and did research on the equipment I would need, because at the same rate, before going fully virtual as of now, I was still mobile. So I had my own equipment. So I kind of planned ahead of what I knew I was going to need. So I already had money put aside for that.
Yeah, that's it. And that's what people don't do. They kind of lean on, I don't know, some kind of Fathom information.
It'll work out.
Yeah.
It's going to work out.
So, I got favor. It's all good. I was like, but God blesses you with the brain to use it. So let's start using that. how did you start your first, your business, Twan?
So in I've been kind of fortunate because in these here, for instance, like with the Sprint business, I was already in that industry and I was in sales and I was starting to do very well. And then opportunities came out of that for me to kind of springboard into my own dealership, and being able to use the money that I made, to support that for short periods of time. But it was commission-based business. So all you had to do is just keep doing what you were doing and the money would come in at a larger scale because now I'm ownership, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with that part, yeah, it was sales, save, and go. All right. When kind of had some hiccups with that, transitioned into this new industry as far as personal injury, this was based off of having some banking relationships from the past, but it was also, again, getting my feet wet, starting to build some relationships, starting to build up some clientele very small, and then strategic partnership turning into a full-scale partnership with my business partner, Jose, who also had great relationships. And then we were just able to go out and do what we do, and as far as producing, and then again, money started coming in. This is where the problem lies. A lot of times people think that you make a lot of money. They don't understand how much money goes back out. Mm-hmm. For whatever reason. But for us, mostly, we compete in the industry of, law firms that spend $23 million a year on marketing. We compete with every law firm. We compete with every doctor's office, medical office that competes in that same space as far as personal injury. So when COVID hit, one of the things is that we may spend 70% of our money back out just in marketing and other things that we needed to do. But that remaining money that we kept, we weren't frivolous spenders. We're not out buying $1 million homes and $200,000 cars. So we were able to, again, right, we understand that the climate we're in, it can change any day. So just to keep saving that money, keep stockpiling. But again, you said it, you guys have met one of my business bankers, Mr. Will Stanford. And again, that relationship goes beyond banking, but we know that he will do whatever it takes to help us get access to certain things, financial resources or other resources. So again, it's those relationships, but also understanding that the rainy day will come. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And our businesses have 4 months with zero revenue. Mm-hmm. Most people can't survive like that.
Right.
Luckily, and by I do believe we did have some favor. So luckily, by that, us saving, and by the blessings of the man upstairs, it just kind of goes. And again, clients who, even though they may postpone contracts or suspend them during this time, when it comes back, they're like, hey, we're right back with you. So it's also supporting your clients.
Yeah. All right. B?
Yeah. And something too, for those entrepreneurs who are just starting out in your entrepreneurial journey, as far as funding, don't be afraid to keep working your full-time job and starting and funding your business with your full-time job. Not everybody, entrepreneurship looks very cool and sexy and everybody loves it. But you can't always just jump out and quit and be a full-time entrepreneur. Now you can do that. It just might be a little bit harder, especially if you're not thinking ahead and being able to secure funding with different avenues that, let's say, and Twan have mentioned. So look, if you're just getting your start, don't feel ashamed to fund your business with a full-time job.
I'm trying to figure out, when did having like a full-time job become like a point of contention? Like there's some, like we're on this entrepreneurial journey hard, but there's some people who they look at you, if you have like W-2 income, like, oh, you're not really about it. I'm like, when did that happen? And it's kind of a shame because one, entrepreneurship is not for everybody. Mm-hmm. Business savvy and leadership and taking control of whether you're working for yourself or somebody else, taking that CEO mentality in order to keep driving, that's for everybody. The entrepreneurial mindset is for everybody, but the journey is not for everybody. Right. And and plus we all need people to work for us. What would we do if all our employees quit today?
Right.
I mean, you could try it if you want to. And I always tell people, when we hire them, hey, let me know what your dreams are. Let me know what your intentions are. Right. You're looking for experience because you're going to want to springboard and, just let me know. and I'll help you in any way I can. But I just need to know from an employer perspective, so I'm prepared, because, you can't solve a customer problem without solving an employee problem. So if you want to have success, you've got to trickle it the right way. But, there's nothing dishonorable about, a flourishing career, there's a lot of respect both ways. And I think that for some reason, some of that's been lost over the years, or, again, people paint this sexy persona of entrepreneurship. It's just not for everybody.
No, I'm sorry. No, I was just going to touch off what you said too, because it also goes the other way sometimes, right? Because I have friends, family that I would tell, I'm just talking to them about some of the challenges I'm going through. And they're like, well, why would you do that? Why would you put yourself through that? Just go keep that corporate path, keep that security, and keep moving. That's just not for me. But I also want to say this too. Just because you're an entrepreneur, not all businesses are for you.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that I chose, communications industry, I was already in. But that was a business that, as you thrive, the money that came could just fully support everything else you want to do. So it was almost like you just had to have a little bit of startup, and then like once you make your normal sales and you do what you do, things just kind of explode. And then even in some of the other businesses as well, whereas I have some friends that they build up and they're going to put out a lot more money before that turns around and it starts to come back to them. And it's one of my friends, 3 years, he knew it was going to be at least 3 to 5 years before he really was reaping the benefits of his success and the journey that he was on. So you just kind of have to know the strategy that best works for you and your business.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I want to touch on it too, just going back to, what O was starting out with, as far as some people seeing it as being, I guess, whack in a sense, if you have a 9 to 5 and being an entrepreneur. So think about it this way too. When you have your corporate job, it can also be probably your first few clients could come from that corporate job.
Right.
Those entrepreneurs in real estate, you may have somebody in your corporate position that's looking to purchase a home or something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, think about all of that. And
Yeah.
in the same way, I feel like you also need to be passionate, obviously, about what business you're looking to get into or looking to starting. I got into fitness because I'm very passionate about it. I live it. It's a lifestyle for me. So why would I not want to share that with the masses?
Right. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to choose the right industry. You have to be honest with the people around you. You don't want to, always have to live this double life. That's not fun. But you have to be able to balance it. You have to be able to branch out on your own when the time is right. You have to save. You have to, shore up your company and all of that, all the insurances that come with it. So you need that. You don't cut corners when it comes to starting your business, because, when it falls, it's a big fall. And just, continue to fill your tool belt of skills. You fill your tool belt, because sometimes when you have to change, and if you can adapt, then you win. You never know when you have to, take another path. I'm going to end it on another share for you guys. So we've all had relationships in business, good or bad. I want everybody to quickly share, I guess, your a business experience where you've learned the most. There could be some mistakes involved to go along with where we've been, the theme of the show. Hit me with your biggest mistake in business, and what that's meant, and how you've grown from it, or a lesson, a takeaway, and we'll call it a day.
Come back to me last.
Well, I know you guys very well, so I know personally that you all have them.
Right.
So if the pause means you may not be willing to share that one, so share the second one.
I'm trying to pick which one I feel like.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So I'll start. So some probably about 5.5 years now, 6 years ago, thriving Sprint corporate government business dealership, no retail. At that time, I had a partnership. It was a friendship, and one of the things was a trust. I had a great trust in the other person never being mistruthful at all. And I just think what happened was, and I'm not gonna turn this accusatory. What I will say is this, is that we made a lot of money. We were making a lot of money. And at one point, there were some breakdowns. I was trying to exit the situation, and there was no money to buy me out.
Mm.
And what I realized in that moment is no matter what business or no matter – at that time, I didn't even think I would ever have another partnership again because I just felt like I could only count on me.
Mm-hmm.
But what I realized is that no matter what, I would always control the financials moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing about me is I don't play with people's money. And when I believe that we're in something together, I believe that I'm responsible for your family.
Mm-hmm.
So not only you, but your family. So I would never play with people's money. And, you know, it goes back to a Bob Johnson quote, founder of BET. He said, I sign every check that goes out, so I know everything that goes on in my business.
Yeah, Oprah does too. She doesn't believe in the name stamp.
She actually learned that from him,
Mm.
right? Like she tells the story that she learned that from him. And I was, and again, it wasn't about checks going out. I wasn't aware of everything that was happening because it was so much money coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there was a great friendship and a great trust. And, we'll just say everybody makes mistakes. But that right there was my biggest mistake that I will never make again. And every future partner I've had since then has understood that.
Yeah. There's a lot of psychological hurt that goes with that. So It's one thing like the business, you lost money, you lost your friend, but then it's like, wow, when this happens to me, you know what I mean? And not that any of us are above any situation, but when it happens to you, this has happened to me. And, you never want to feel that hurt again,
All right.
It's really, not everybody can be trusted in business. Contracts, people. I don't care, friend, family, foe, whatever.
Writing.
Everything has to be in writing. How the division of duties, division of roles, what's going to happen with the money, how you settle, legal disputes, and that contract is everything. Who's up?
Yeah, so I'm going to go on that. Actually, that touches a little bit on my point. Is yes, get it in writing. Usually you go into partnerships with people that you know. And so it is easy to let your guard down because, look, I've known this person for X amount of years, or we've been through this. Again, business is a different game. And so get it in writing. And, I look at business partnerships kind of like a marriage. Like, in order for it to work, you kind of need two people or multiple people, whoever is in this partnership. You need people to be sort of in the same place at the same time and have the same vision. So if you are going into a partnership with somebody who they think this is a get rich quick scheme, it's important to know what you're getting into. And so when we're talking about, a mistake that I made, I got into a business partnership with a family member who our visions were not the same. I thought that they were, and I, number one, didn't get everything in writing, so I didn't write the contract. I didn't even know there was a contract, and I didn't ask enough questions to know what my partner's end game was, and did it match up with my end game. And so what ended up happening is that partner took the business and sort of, it was his own, it was his business. And I thought I was a part of something that I really wasn't.
Yeah. I always watch people with that trigger finger. They're like, oh, let's do this. They're like, oh, I already filed it. Did you?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Did you on our behalf? Because I didn't sign off on that. And that's happened to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm like, oh, okay, well, when are you going to file the amendment?
Like, what?
Because what are we doing here? I don't work for you. It's like you took 50% of the money from me. Like that was my contribution. Like, come on, So that's been crazy. I would say, with partnerships, man. Listen, I've been through some. Like, wow, I had no idea they had a ticky boom. They just like, well, where's your mind, Rio? What you got?
So mine would have to be just being too prideful and having my definition of what an entrepreneur is, which you kind of touched on earlier, to what it actually is. So starting mine, I went into Titanic mode. I'm like, well, I know what I want to do, what I need to do. And I'm like, I got to do all of this. I think I had to do everything on myself. So I wanted not saying I wanted all control, but just figured it's my business. I have to do it all. Meanwhile, I have B&O here, business consultants. Oh, they run several businesses. Why not? I didn't even think about it because I was in panic mode.
Yeah.
I told B what I was getting into initially. I'm like, B, I called her one day, like, hey, man, I'm really about this fitness. I'm about to get my certification. And it was all good. But immediately I was like, man, I got a lot to do. And I stressed myself out instead of making things less complicated. And here we are. And they've been stellar with my marketing, with everything. This sign that you see behind me, I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but it's all B&O. So not taking advantage of resources that I already had and just being a bit more too prideful in this panic mode.
I appreciate that.
And
McKinney Brands.
real quick, even going back to that, right? Rio, sometimes, and you're right, like especially like immediately around us, like using those resources, right? But even going back to what B was talking about with the contracts, I want everybody to understand out there is even when you have everything in writing, sometimes you have to make decisions. Because for me, I had everything in writing. I had all the contracts aligned. The problem is I had to ask myself, did I want peace of mind or did I want my financial gain? Because they weren't going to be one and the same. Because sometimes when people wrong you and they hurt you, you are willing to take it places you don't know if you necessarily want to. Where I'm just talking legally. Sometimes in your mind, you may want to do other things that are not in your best interest. And I found it better for me to completely cut those ties, friendship and all.
Yeah.
Instead of going a legal route or maybe a not so legal route. So yeah, it just I just tell people, look, just because you have contracts in place, please do not think that people still will not try to find ways to do you wrong.
Right. That's what a lot of
sometimes
lawyers are
unintentional,
right?
right?
Lawyers are to get you in or out of a contract.
Right.
So everything, it's not always, is what it is. It also highlights how people see you. Like, oh, I thought we were in a respectful place. I thought that he respected me, what I brought to the table, and come to find out that clearly they didn't.
Wasn't.
Right.
Nope.
Right. So it becomes very, very sticky. If you're getting into a partnership, it really has to be right on all fronts. That access, what people are signing you up for, it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
B brought up visions, right? Like you have to have the same vision.
Mm-hmm.
We had a partnership. We broke it up because one of my other partners told him, he said, we're having dueling visions. When we meet, everything is one way.
Mm-hmm.
When you leave, you are now like, well, I'm a partner. I should be able to do this and do what I want to do. No, this is the vision.
Right.
So you know what? We're going to separate because we have dueling visions.
Yeah.
Right.
And we had to do that. And he wasn't happy about it. But again, at the end of the day, what's on paper is what's on paper.
Yeah, it is what it is.
And
now.
that's how we had to go. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you got to save yourself. But thank you, everybody. I think that we did another round. So Many Hands Podcast, www.manyhandspodcast.com. We're on Apple. Where else are we, guys? We're on Apple. We're on Stitcher. We're on iHeart. We're on Google Podcasts, Spotify. Yep. Let us know. We'll be releasing YouTube soon. You can hit us on Facebook under the same name. You can hit us on Instagram under the same name. You can reach out to any one of us as a collective or individually through that spot. So we are happy to be here, and we are out. See you guys on the next show.